Hey, good afternoon, everyone. How about that game? Go Eagles. Oh, wait a minute. Wrong Facebook Live. Sorry. So I'm Jill Zande. I'm the Associate Director and Competition Coordinator for the MATE Center. And I'm here along with Matt Gardner.
Hi, everyone.
The competition's technical manager. And Matt is going to take you through a SCOUT and Navigator class safety inspection tutorial. So basically he's going to work through the safety inspection sheets for both of those competition classes and point out things that you can find in a PowerPoint presentation, which he'll tell you about in just a second. But the best part about this is not only is he going to tell you about this, but you're also going to be able to ask questions, and Matt will answer them here live. So very exciting, great opportunity. Yes, this will be archived. It will live on the MATE Competition Facebook page, and it will also, we'll download the video and we'll put it up on our YouTube and Vimeo channel. So you will have an opportunity to go back and see this. Before we get into this, before I turn it over to Matt, a couple of things. So on your page, you should see a subscribe button. If you want to make sure you don't miss any more of our Facebook Lives this competition season, hit subscribe, and that'll make sure that you get us when we go live. And I also want to point out, as usual, or as we've been in the past, we're here in the CMATE workshop. We've got a couple students in here. Newman behind the camera. There's Newman. You know Newman. He's been our camera person several times, and then we have Ryan over here working away. So we're going to try to stay out of their way so they can keep working and fulfilling orders, especially if you ordered something for the competition. But with that all said, I think we're ready. I'm going to turn it over to Matt, and he'll take it away.
Excellent. So first I'm just going to talk about kind of some general things, but then we're actually going to run through the score sheets, and I have a triggerfish ROV here, and actually an angelfish ROV that we're going to run through kind of as a SCOUT and Navigator. And we're going to kind of be following along with the tutorial. There's a SCOUT and Navigator safety inspection tutorial, and if you want to follow along with that, you can find it on the website. So go to marinetech.org website, our MATE website, and then if you go up to the tabs, the ROV competition tab, go down to mission, scoring, and specs. As you open that up, there'll be a scoring tab. You can go over there or look for scoring. And then if you scroll down to either Navigator or SCOUT, at the very bottom of your section, you will see a link that is the SCOUT and Navigator inspection tutorial. And it is, looks like this. And it's just something, you can follow throughout and look at that. I'm going to be referencing page numbers in there. Okay. So the first thing we'll talk about is for your safety inspection, you're going to need a SID, a System Integration Diagram. And your regionals, one or two regionals may require some submissions early, but mostly you're going to just need to bring a SID on the day. And a SID is just kind of a diagram of your vehicle, how electricity and maybe data is flowing through your vehicle. And there are some example SIDs. If you want to look, there's some example SIDs on page 15. So there's one for kind of a triggerfish. There's one for a puffer angelfish. And so, if you want to know kind of, hey, what a SID is, you can look at those. But one thing is, you don't want to use these directly. You want to make your own, because your ROV may be a bit different than the ones we have in our example. But you want to make and do your own. And not only does it help the judges, they can look at it and kind of understand how your vehicle is set up, but also it's going to help you as your team know how your vehicle is set up, how electricity is flowing through your vehicle. Okay, so as I said, some regionals may require, and this is something, talk to your regional coordinator about it, they may require you to submit some things early. Most regionals don't have that, but if you do have to submit things early, you may get what, and you'll see on here, an initial safety inspection score sheet. So if you are turning things in early, you may get some points from that. But otherwise, you're probably not going to be scored for that. And if you see a reference to the initial safety inspection score and you haven't turned things early, you can just ignore it. And then you're going to be doing your on-site safety inspection. So probably the day of your competition, some regionals might have maybe the night before, something like that. You're going to run through the on-site safety inspection with your vehicle. And you have to do this. You have to go through a safety inspection before your vehicle gets in the water. So before you can put it in the water and do your mission, you need to have passed a safety inspection. Okay? So just some general stuff. You know, when you go through a safety inspection, you know, we're not looking at, oh, we want to disqualify things. We just want to make sure that everyone has a safe, good vehicle so they can get in the water without any problems. And you know, you do get 3 tries at your safety inspection. So if you do come up with a problem, doesn't mean you're automatically disqualified. The judge will tell you what your issue is, and you can go fix it. And you get 3 tries. So if you come up and it's still not fixed, you get another try, things like that. Okay. So I'm going to talk about just some of the main issues we find before we go through our safety inspection. And one of the first ones is, of course, I talked about the SID. Teams that don't have a SID. If you show up to your safety inspection and you don't have your SID, your system integration system integration diagram, you're not going to pass, and you're going to have to go off in a corner and do a hand-drawn one really quickly, which probably isn't going to look real good. So bring that SID with you. If your SID doesn't show a main fuse, we want on your SID. If you look at it here, so this one has its main fuse showing there. This one has the main fuse showing up there. Kind of hard to see, but you can look at the documents I said. I think those were pages 15 and 16. And we want that fuse to be actually a proper fuse symbol. So generally, you know, for like motors, you can just draw a box, but for the fuse, we want a proper fuse symbol. If you're like, oh my gosh, what's a proper fuse symbol? A couple places you can go. If you go online and just type in your favorite search engine, fuse symbol, and then look at the images, they'll come up. You can also look in the manual. We actually published in the manual what some of the acceptable fuse symbols look like. So definitely use that symbol in your SID. Another thing with your SID, issue with the SID, if you're using pneumatics or hydraulics, so maybe some syringes or some other sort of hydraulics, and that's not on an SID, it can be on an independent SID or on your main electrical one. If you're using hydraulics but that's not shown on your SID, that'll be a failure as well, so add that in. No Anderson power pole connectors. I don't think that's quite as much of an issue anymore, but you do need those Anderson power poles now. We used to have banana plugs, but we switched over to Anderson power poles a couple years ago. Sharp items or glass, something that would, you know, if you have something sharp on your ROV, that will get you to fail. And you know, once upon a time, we actually had a team that used some fishing hooks, some treble hooks, on their RV, which is a really good way to pick things up, but not a safe way to pick things up. So, you know, don't use anything like fishing hooks, glass jars, which could break and become very sharp. Waterproof motors. So all the motors need to be waterproofed. If you have a kit with a bilge pump, those are waterproof. You know, Blue Robotics, Seabotics motors, those are waterproof. But if you have maybe an old motor that's just kind of metal with holes in it, those aren't waterproof, so you do need to waterproof your motors. I'll go through this, but propellers outside the frame. So if your propellers are outside of your frame, they need to be shrouded. We'll look through some of these examples of that later. But you need your propellers either shrouded or inside your frame. And then some of the other common mistakes teams make, your camera has to run off the 12-volt main supply. So you can't use a USB camera or a camera with batteries on it. The camera power has to come from the main 12-volt power supply. There are no exceptions to that rule at all. Okay, so now I'm going to run through some safety inspections, and if you look, I think on page 6 and 7 of this, there are the safety inspection sheets, or you can go online. The same place you found this tutorial, you can go online, and we have the safety score sheets posted, so you can look and you can follow along, and you can also see exactly what you're going to need to do. Okay, so I'm going to have my safety glasses on for this, and we're going to do a safety inspection. I'm just going to kind of do them both at the same time. So we'll go through both Navigator and Scout. So if you look at your safety inspection sheet, it'll look something like that. This is the Navigator one. Scout one's over here. But the first thing is, if you did have an initial safety inspection, there are going to be some points for that. So you might have your points listed on there, and it may say some things like that. So that's part one, if there was an initial safety inspection. As I said, I don't think many regionals are doing that. Contact your regional coordinator, or look, hopefully you have a regional information document about your regional that may have that information in it. And as we still good, Jill? No questions so
no,
far?
No, you know what? The only questions that we have gotten are about Explorer, OBS, Wi-Fi, and Arduino information. And I said, patience, that's coming soon. Thanks for everybody for patience.
Yeah. Okay.
So those are the only questions so far. Poor Matt's like, somebody asked me a question. Somebody asked Matt a question.
So someone asked me a question. I'm going to be done quick. And, hey, then I can get back to work. Okay. Anyway, so part 2 is the physical, title physical. And the first thing is all items are attached to the ROV. So your judge may come up and just poke or prod. What I actually like to do is I actually like to give the ROV a shake. If I give it a little shake, I don't want anything falling off. So let's say I actually have this one. If this motor is really loose and I give it a shake, oh, that motor comes out. That's not good. So you want everything on there nice and secure. And I'll give this one a shake as well, just to make sure, you know, nothing's falling off that vehicle. Now, your judge's not going to be pounding on your vehicle or anything like that, but just give it a quick shake to see if everything's attached. Hazardous items are identified. You know, I talked about we don't want anything really sharp, like no blades or anything, but every so often a mission might require something that's somewhat sharp, or maybe you're like, oh, you know, motor's turning. If you have something that's potentially hazardous, label it. You know, maybe put. We've had teams put black and yellow caution tape around motors, things like that. All propellers are completely inside the frame or shrouded. So on this one, this triggerfish, the motors are outside the frame, but they're shrouded. And what we're really looking for is if you bump up against the side of the pool, a diver's leg, something like that, that the propeller's not going to be hitting that, damaging the pool, hurting a diver. So for this one, you'll notice the propellers aren't shrouded, but they are completely inside the frame. So this is going to be just kind of a visual inspection that, you know, the judge is going to look and go, yep, as I look at this, all these propellers are inside the frame, so if this bumps up against something, the propeller's not going to be hitting it. No sharp edges that could hurt someone, hurt both. As I said, no hooks, no knife blades, anything like that. One actually thing you want to kind of look out for is if you use zip ties to secure things, and so I had this zip tie, tighten it down like this, and then I just cut this off with scissors. And this actually can be a really sharp edge. If you grab it here, that hurts. So one of the things the judges may do is test every little edge of your zip tie that you cut off. And if you have flush cutters, those are cutters that you can use to cut components off boards. Flush cutters right along here do a good job of making that flat. Or actually, if I use scissors or wire cutters, I cut it at an angle this way and I cut it at an angle this way, so it's not sharp and it's not going to hurt there. Okay? So that's part 2 physical. The next part is part 3 electrical. So the first thing, and this we start with down on the vehicle, and we want to make sure that the tether is properly secured at the vehicle. So let me bend this one up. And what we want to see is we want to see some tightening here. And so this is some strain relief here. And what this does is if this gets pulled on, the wires, this tightens down so it's holding the sheath, and we're not pulling on any wire junction. So we don't want to pull on where wires are soldered together. So that's pretty good. Same on this one over here where the tether comes in here. We've got some strain relief. So if this pulls, it's not pulling against an electrical connection. Where was I? No exposed motor. So again, your judge is going to look at your motors and make sure that they're waterproof. So all of these are the bilge pump motors on here. So yeah, those are waterproofed already. No copper or bare wires. So as we look around through here, I don't want to see any exposed copper because, of course, this part's going down in the water and we don't want any electrons leaking out because that will cause corrosion. So just kind of look around and all these are good. And then we've got wire splices are properly sealed, and yeah, wires and splices are properly sealed. So essentially, the black and brown wires in this example coming from the motors to the tether, we just want to make sure that those are sealed well. And I'm actually going to open this up. It might be hard for Newman to get the camera in here. How much I can open this one up. But actually what we did is you can notice in there, we have these sealed and we have both hot glue and shrink wrap. So these are properly sealed wires. And then we just kind of hit them in here so they're even more protected in there. So we just want to make sure, again, that there's no copper wire exposed because that will cause corrosion to both your wires and your vehicle stop working, but it can also damage the pool. Okay, so that's on the ROV. The next section, 3.1, is surface control. So the first thing the judge is going to look at is that you have a single attachment point, and that is an Anderson power pole. So this is for the triggerfish over here, and we've got our red-black Anderson power pole connectors. And the same for our other one. Yep, we've got the red-black power pole connectors. Yep. And of course, you know, we've moved away from banana plugs and any other kinds. You need these to connect into your power. And the next part is you have a 15 amp or less, it could be less, fuse set in light, and that's within 30 centimeters. So we're going to first off pop this open. We've got a blue, hard to see, but this blue is a 15 amp fuse. So this one's good. And we also want to make sure, you know, the judge will look, this fuse needs to be on the positive side within 30 centimeters of your Anderson power pole. Now, if it's close, the judge may get out a ruler and check. I can pretty much tell this one's 15 centimeters or so away. So this one's good, as is this one. Now this one actually has only a 10 amp fuse in it, but that's okay. It's 15 amp or less, and 10 is less than 15.
Yay! Okay.
So the next thing is the surface control station is built in a neat workmanship-like manner. There are no loose or unsecured wires, and electrical components are in an enclosure. So if you went on our tutorial, if you look at actually slide 23, or page 23, where are we, 23? Whoops. Maybe it's, there, that's one. So yeah, page 23. I don't know if you can see that picture, but this was one where there's just like a rat's nest of wires in there, wires going everywhere. That's not what we want to see. So as we look, what your judge is going to do is look a little closer at your control box, and this is the angelfish. So you know, you can see that there are wires in there, but they're the X's on the back of each wires, and each wire is doing, you know, is kind of in its place doing what it wants. The wires in between there are jumpers, then the tether comes out. So it's not a big mess in there. For our triggerfish controller, you can just see, you know, there are wires in there, but there's no real rat's nest in there. Got these wires connected here, the wires here and here, and most of the components are soldered on a board. So this is a good, solid control system. Nothing, you know, it's messy, and that's just so not only the judge, but you can look in here, and especially the judge can kind of know, hey, how things are flowing through here, and look and make sure they can kind of understand how electricity is flowing through your vehicle.
We have a question!
Excellent
Woo!
question!
All right, so question. Mothdu, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this correctly. He wants to know, do we have to use the exact fuse housing as the manual? I think he's talking about the power pole, Anderson power pole, and then the connection.
Yeah, for, no, all we want is we want Anderson power poles. No, lost the end of mine. So you have to have Anderson power poles, and then you need a fuse within 30 centimeters.
But it doesn't have to be that.
It doesn't have to be this very one, yeah. Now,
cool.
Just in case, I know you've got some questions about Explorer. If you are an Explorer class person looking at this, for Explorer class there are very specific fuses and fuse voltage you have to use. But for Scout and Navigator, which we're doing today, no.
Matt, that's a great reminder. This is Scout and Navigator. So we will do a Ranger and Explorer safety inspection tutorial and Q&A next week. We'll get a notice out about it and check the Facebook page. But this is specifically for Scout and Navigator. So great reminder just to make sure no one's confused.
And then again, as we go back to this, if you go to page slides 19 and 17, we have show some like banana plug connectors, and we don't want to see banana plug connectors, especially, you know, we've had teams in the past use banana plugs to jump power around. The problem with that is if you have one end of that banana plug comes loose, or especially the downstream end, and it's floating around in your control box and it's touching things, you can get shorts and all sorts of problems in there. So banana plugs, you know, we moved away from them because these get clipped in and secure. They don't come out easily. And even if this is flopping around, there's, you know, you can't really get into the metal there. So banana plugs are not a good idea. Okay. So the other thing the next one on here is the tether is secured at the surface control. We looked at the tether on the bottom end, on the ROV end, but I want to make sure that the tether on the top end is secured as well. And this one, yeah, we've got this little pigtail. And essentially how these work is as you screw this down, it tightens down around the sheath. And this is really important because a lot of times, hey, I was on a team once, you get excited, and you walk away, and all of a sudden this gets pulled and yanked. And you don't want to, of course, yank on your connections in here. So you want it there. For this one, you know, we've got these connectors here and here. So they've got some security up there as well for the triggerfish.
Okay, we have another question.
Okay.
If you're ready for one. All right. Roderick Mullins asks, Matt, can the camera wiring run separately with the tether? We didn't wire ours that way at the workshop in Kingsport. You probably know Roderick.
Yep. So, yeah, for this one, so this one has a camera. You know, this is, I'll just say, this is our model, so my tether's actually only about 4 feet long on this one because it sits on a table, doesn't go in the water much, although it did go in the water at your pool there in Kingsport, only about that far in the water. But yeah, so this is camera wire. You could just tape or zip tie. Of course, if you're using zip ties, make sure they're not sharp. And just, you know, tape this every, you know, 10 centimeters or something to keep those together. So you know, you probably, just for safety and security, you want your two wires somewhat bundled together, but your camera doesn't have to run through your sheathing for your motor wires. Hopefully that answered your question. If not, type it in and Jill will.
Yeah, and I'll be there.
Yep. So anyway, back to the strain relief. You know, you do want some good strain relief. Just like taping something down or using zip ties is generally not enough for strain relief. Okay? And then the last one for the controller is no exposed copper or bare wire. So we look in here, and you know, I'm going to see some copper because you know, there's some metal-to-metal connections in here. But you know, I don't want to see copper hanging out the back end of here. Or if we look in this one, you know, I don't want to see, you know, a lot of copper wire hanging out, especially where this goes into the ports. There's some blue ports there where the wires go into there, because if that bare copper wire, you know, gets bounced around and touches some other bare copper wire, you could have a short, and then of course, well, shorts out your system, and bad things happen in your control box. So, especially, you know, for pufferfish and triggerfish where the wires go into a port, you know, yeah, if you look close enough, you're going to see some copper wire in there, but we don't want to see any copper wire kind of outside that port where it could touch something else.
Okay, I have another question.
Okay.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
All right, Holly actually asks us. Hi, Holly. Does using TexFlex count as tether relief, or do you have to use the black strain relief pieces?
You can use other things. I don't know what TexFlex is.
Probably what's the.
It might be that yellow.
Yeah, the yellow.
We had some around here a couple days ago, but now it's gone.
Somewhere.
You know, that really depends. You know, it depends on what TexFlex you're using. But essentially, one of the things we talk about is, are you willing to do this? Are you willing to pick your ROV up by its tether? Are you willing to pick your ROV up or control box up by that tether and hang it? Because again, you know, if you're just pulling on solder or something else, you know, that's not something you want to do. But, okay, hopefully that answered your question. Sorry I can't answer exactly, but hopefully that's enough. Okay. Now, this one's Navigator only, but AC. So
yes. Oh, sorry. She said yes. It's the yellow tether. So,
okay.
So that's just the casing.
Yeah, that yellow stuff is more of just a casing, and it's usually not really for strain relief. It's just to hold some wires together.
So you'll want to use something.
Yeah. You'd want to get something a little more to secure that wire in there. Okay, for Navigator only, 120 volt AC, which is separated and clearly identified. Now, Navigator teams may use AC to like power a video screen for their camera. So again, the camera has to run off the main 12 volt supply, but your video screen can be plugged in. And what we want to do is just make sure that AC is just completely separate from any of the DC components of your control box. And just a story, once upon a time, we had an ROV where they actually used, their motors came into AC plugs, and they plugged those into a power strip, and that was all DC, it wasn't AC, but they used this as a power strip. And the problem with that is they all knew, oh yeah, this is an AC, this plugs into DC. But someone may see that and go, oh, this can plug into the wall. This ROV powers up by plugging into the wall. So we really don't recommend any AC components, don't use them as for your DC wiring. But again, for Navigator teams, you know, you can plug your monitor into AC power, no problem. Just again, keep that cord separate or marked away from your DC components. Okay, so now again, I just mentioned this, but again, for both Navigator and Scout, if Scouts, they can use cameras. You don't have to. Scout can look in the pool. But if you are using a camera, that camera must run off the main 12-volt DC supply. So this one, I can kind of show here. So this is the camera power, and it just plugs in. Yeah, it's power. So this just plugs in, and we are getting, this power comes from here. So we're getting power from this, which of course plugs from the box, it plugs into DC. So this is a DC camera. We're getting 12 volts DC from our control box, which is getting it through our power poles and from our fuse. So things like USB cameras are not allowed because they're getting power from a computer, which is AC. So no USB cameras, and again, no cameras with batteries on board. The power for your camera has to come from the mate 12 volt supply, and there are no exceptions at all to that rule. Okay?
And Paul Onsma says, "Hi Matt, you're doing a great job."
Thanks.
There you go.
Thanks. Okay, so the next one is, section 4 is pneumatics hydraulics. Now, if your vehicle doesn't use pneumatics hydraulics, just tell the judge, hey, we don't use that. But if you are using it, as I said earlier, you need to have a fluid SID, or a fluid interconnection diagram. Just kind of how you're using fluid. Now, if you're just using simple syringe hydraulics, I kind of have one here where you push the syringe on one side, it opens the syringe down there. You do need to document that on your SID. That would just be kind of a box on the surface that says syringe, a line, and a box on the bottom on the ROV that says syringe. So, you know, documenting this is fairly easy, but we want to see it documented. You can only use a hand or foot pump. So we don't allow electric pumps. Even a little electric fish tank pump is not allowed. It has to be a hand pump, so, you know, it can be a bicycle pump or something like that. We don't allow pressure accumulators. I don't have anything there. But let's say if you had a container on your vehicle that you pump air into and there's no outlet, and you just pump up, you can get really high pressure in there. So that's not allowed. So if you do want a container or something on your vehicle, you know, you can pump air into it, but it has to have a hole, so as air goes in, water comes out, and if you ever push too much air in there, extra air will come out. Kind of like, if you've looked at the missions, the lift bag for the plane, you know, it has a big hole on the bottom. You can fill it up with air to get that thing to go up to the surface, but if you pump in too much air, it just comes out the bottom.
Another question.
Okay, excellent.
All right, BBR, ROVs, LAVAR. Hopefully I got that right. Is there any specific camera we should use?
Sorry, getting a drink of
water break, right?
Yeah, water break. No, there's no specific cameras that you have to use. Again, we only have restrictions of what you can't use. So no battery-powered cameras, you know, things like that. The camera power has to come from the supply. But yeah, you can use any camera you want out there. You know, this one is just a backup camera from a car because those already run on 12 volts, which this whole system is 12 volts, so it's convenient that way.
Where did we get that one, Matt?
This one? This is,
Amazon.
Amazon. Yeah, we get our cameras from Amazon. And actually, if you're looking for cameras, you know, plug for the Mate website, the store site, you can go on the store and look at them. We have like kind of what cameras you can buy on our store website.
Yeah, and a camera waterproof.
Right. Camera waterproof. Now, I should say, cameras you can use. You don't have to use the ones we have. We just have them there because it's like, hey, here's a camera where you can get a camera on Amazon. Okay. So yeah, that's it for the hydraulic pneumatic section. So the last one is actually kind of just a hanger on from the Explorer Ranger one about lasers. We don't allow lasers in Navigator or Scout. If you're desperate to use a laser on your vehicle, you have to move up to Ranger class. Okay? So that's it for running through the score sheets. I have a few more things, but if you have questions, now's the time to ask them because it's only going to be a couple more minutes.
Although, if they don't ask here, where can they ask?
Yes, if you have questions about this, you can post them to the Mate forum board. So again, if you go to our website, ROV Competition, you'll see one called Forums. You can get on there and post there. If you aren't signed up for that, you can sign up. Now, I will say, because I've had a couple people asking recently, it does take a day or so to get your sign up verified, because we actually have a person doing that. And so, you know, just go on and, you know, You may not be able to ask it immediately, but it's usually the next day where you can ask that question. And I will try and answer it. Now, I know we had some people asking some questions from Explorer class. I try and get to them as often as I can. I think I got most of them yesterday. If the question doesn't get answered right away, it's usually because I'm contacting some of our other judges and saying, hey, what do you think about this? Or I'm trying to get that information for you. Okay? And of course, if it's a long time and it doesn't get answered, just ask again. I may have missed it, and that happens sometimes. I apologize if someone was like, hey, you never got my question. I'm like, yeah, sorry about that, and I got it answered. Anyway, back to the safety. As I said, when you're doing your safety inspection, you get 3 chances. So if you come up and the judge goes, oh no, you missed this. Let's say for this one anyway, the judge may be like, these wires, they're just hanging loose. So you may want to skip. So you got to go away, tape them down, whatever you want to do, zip tie them down so they're a little more secure. Then you get to come back. And let's say there's like, oh, this motor, I can't move this motor, but let's say this motor's outside. It's like, now, the judge will try and catch everything at once, but let's say there's another problem. They go, oh, this is bad too. You can go back and try and fix it and come back a third time. You get 3 chances. If you don't make it on that third one, and actually, you don't get to go in the water. But generally, on your second, kind of before you go away for your third fix, your judges are really going to help you. We want everyone to compete. So you're just going to go, hey, here's what you need. Here's what you need to do. Hopefully your regional will have a repair table. They can maybe help you out. But we're really going to try to get all your problems fixed so you can get in the water and do an excellent job on the missions.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we have another question.
Okay.
So the question is from BBR.
It live went away because it's trying to reconnect to the Wi-Fi.
Oh.
Well, if you record the video, it's going to go on your phone.
I think it went live again. Yep.
Okay.
All right, we're back. Sorry.
We had a little hiccup in our video.
The Wi-Fi hiccup.
Yep, a little hiccup, but I hope we're back on.
Us?
Yes.
Patrick, can you see us?
So if you're online, just give a thumbs up to Jill online.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but some of the main issues, not so much anymore, but when we first switched over from banana plugs to Anderson power poles, that was a big issue. With this setup, your fuse within 30 centimeters. Honestly, the biggest issue is teams that don't bring their SID with them to the check-in, and then we see them, the judge says, hey, we don't have SID, and then we see them sitting over in a corner for 10 minutes with a piece of paper trying to remember how their vehicle works and what a SID should look like. So bring a SID and make sure that SID has the proper fuse symbol, because if it doesn't have a proper fuse symbol, and again, if you want to know what that proper fuse symbol is, look in the manual, go to a search engine and type in fuse symbol, and you can use one of those there. Sharp items are glass. Propellers outside the frame is one of the common ones, because that's one of the things we kind of just started, kind of requiring. I think it was last year was the first time we required it. So either shrouded propellers or propellers inside the frame for Navigator and Scout. And the other one is a camera that doesn't run off 12 volts. If you have a GoPro or something, GoPros run off batteries, although there are ways to overcome that. Those are kind of the main issues.
No, that's a great question.
Yeah. Okay. So the safety inspection tutorial we talked about is online. There are some other pictures there. I didn't go through everything there, but you can look at some of the pictures of what's allowed, what isn't allowed. So you can use that as a reference. And one of the things I recommend is a week or two before your competition, download your score sheet and go through it. Just go through it with your vehicle. And if you look here and go, are all items attached to your, and just do your own safety check before you get there. And the nice thing is, if you do that, if you're prepared for this, your safety check's probably going to take like 2 minutes. The judge is going to go through, mark it off, and send you on your way with your green card or whatever the success is. It's generally, if you aren't prepared, didn't bring a SID, and that's where it takes a lot longer, a lot more stress on you and your team competition day, which is already stressful enough. So I highly recommend download this. It's already up online, and you can do your own safety check just to make sure that when the judge is doing it, everything's covered. And a few other things. I'm wrapping this up, so if you have questions, get them in. Again, kind of thing, just we want everyone to think safety. If you do ever get off in the offshore industry on a boat, safety is just key. So we want everyone to start thinking about that. you know, these safety checks, we're not looking to disqualify teams or exclude people or, you know, trick you into not being able to do things. We just want everyone to have a safe, fun time there.
That's a great quote. Yeah, offshore or even at a Nissan training facility center. Matt and I did a workshop there not too long ago, and it was really all about stressing safety in the technical workplace. And so that's what we want to focus on. And thank you for bringing that up, that we're not here to disqualify anybody. We're going to do what we can to make sure you get whatever you need to repaired and get in the water. But we just want to make sure you're safe and follow the procedures and protocols we've outlined. So thanks for reminding everybody about that.
And that's pretty much it for me. As I said, last 30 seconds to ask questions. But if you do have questions after this, as I said, post them on the FAQ board, the competition forum board, and I will try to get them answered or send them off to the best person to answer them.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's it.
So I don't see anything else coming in, but again, as Matt said, post it to the FAQ board. Again, this recording is going to live on our competition Facebook page, but we'll take the video file and we'll upload it to our YouTube and Vimeo pages, and we'll post that to the website as soon as we get that video. So don't worry, you're going to get this information. You'll be able to look back on it. Again, a reminder, next week we'll do a safety inspection tutorial and Q&A for Ranger and Explorer. We're going to do them both in the same day, like you did with Scout and Navigator. And that'll likely be next Wednesday or Thursday. We're going to coordinate with Scott Frazier. And all of you who are asking about Wi-Fi and are asking about the Arduino code, Scott will be there and we'll have those answers, hopefully before then, but definitely during. He actually won't be here physically with us in Monterey, but he'll be typing into the chat board and answering your questions. So hope I don't have Scott too much on the hook for that. But he knows it's coming. But that's it. So remember, hit subscribe so you never miss us. And I don't see any other questions. So thanks for joining us. And that's it, I guess. Well, been watching repeats of the game every night.
Sorry. Get yourself a good set of safety glasses that are comfortable to wear. These are actually, we got a bunch for like $10. Called for $10 or something. So, and like I said, they're comfortable. So that's another thing. Just, safety glasses are key. Get one you like that you can wear and you forget it's there.
Yeah, and so just to be silly, wrapping it up, I want to give a shout out to Miss Velda V.V. Morris there, the Pennsylvania Regional Coordinator in Philly, for providing me with additional Philadelphia Eagles gear after the Super Bowl. Shout out to her and her husband Ed. He's a Giants fan, but we still love him and we appreciate him sending us gifts. Anyway, we'll see you later. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye.